constant attitude of taking away the power of the team, creating a rift in every situation. It reminds me sometimes of Thanksgiving dinners. The big family Thanksgiving dinners. There is always someone in there who is rifting. They are like, well, I don't think that. And you're just like, oh my gosh, could we just have a good time already? Could we just enjoy this one day that we actually be together?
It's like that uncle at the cookout, right? Everybody knows when Uncle Charlie shows up, there's going to be drama, okay?
Yes.
And so, you don't want to uninvite Uncle Charlie, so you try to limit as much exposure to Uncle Charlie.
Welcome to MetaGagement, the HR show that dives deep into the heart of employee engagement and workplace culture. Your hosts, Ann Scottlin and Dr. Lyman Montgomery, bring you a groundbreaking show that explores innovative strategies and insights to transform and elevate your organization's HR practices. Dr. Montgomery is an employee engagement expert and best-selling author, while Ann Scottlin is an acclaimed business consultant and podcaster. Together, they will unpack the complexities of modern HR challenges and reveal innovative solutions that can be immediately applied to your workplace. Please welcome Ann Scottlin and Dr. Lyman Montgomery.
Hello, and welcome back to the HR show we created just for you, MetaGagement. Hi, Dr. Lyman Montgomery.
Hello, how are you doing, Ann?
I am great. I'm excited about this episode. Well, this whole series that we're doing, which is about dealing with toxic employees. Don't worry, management. We have something for you down the road soon. But it's been really great so far. And we've been really having some really insightful conversations about how to go to the next level, how to step out of the normal protocols to find more creative solutions. And this is something that we really try to focus on. Right, Lyman?
Yeah, it's something that is very dear to me, having worked in management for a number of years and having supervised some toxic employees. And so this is definitely going to hit home with a lot of managers, supervisors, and even HR professionals out there that listens and watch these episodes.
Absolutely. And thank you all for being here again. We really appreciate each and every one of you, all of you that send us messages. Please do like and subscribe while you're here. That's a huge gift to us. We appreciate that. And if you're new to our show, to MetaGagement-HR, our purpose is really to encourage greater resilience and adaptability in HR. We really dive deeper into neuroscience and other tools to help make our jobs not just easier, but also more satisfying and with longer lasting results. So we tackle the tough challenges here. We tackle tough challenges in modern HR. We bring practical solutions, expert insights. And today we're diving into a topic that every manager and HR professional will encounter at some point: addressing toxic behavior in the workplace. I mean, you walk into the office, you got your coffee, you're ready to go for the day, and then you hear people whispering, and you notice people rolling their eyes, and there's this tension in the air, and you realize that someone is undermining or blaming in the team, and for the whole day, that can really wreak havoc on their morale, on their productivity. So that's why we want to bring this episode to you, to really give you tools and techniques to handle these tricky situations. And so, yes, our episode today is called Drama-Free Zone, Addressing Toxic Behavior. And so, take us away, Lyman. Let's talk about this and using your experience and applying the resources that we've created for people here.
Sure. Thanks, Ann. That scenario you kind of painted about, walking with your coffee or tea in hand, and you overhear the rumblings of a disgruntled, sometimes very active, disgruntled employee. Sometimes they're in a huddle, talking about either a decision that has been made or should have been made or wasn't made. And it creates a discord, disharmony, and it really creates a disruption in the workplace. And so if you are a manager, a supervisor, or an HR professional, or even a colleague or lead, and you come across that type of situation, there's a couple of things I want you to take note of. Number one, understand that the workplace is their home 6 to 8 hours out of the day. So the truth of the matter is, employees spend a lot of time, a third of their waking hours at work. And so they're going to bring issues from home into the workplace. And you have to make a distinction between, if this is a one off, is this someone who is just having a bad day? Is this someone that uh, feels as if somehow or another they've been disrespected, they've not been heard? And what I would recommend that you do is say to that individual, hey, let me talk to you in private and really try to get an understanding and of what's going on, what the issues are. And also remind them that there are avenues to voice their concern. If, for example, your organization may have a grievance process, a dispute resolution process, you want to remind them that that might be the appropriate channel and not creating disruption in the workplace, because while they're venting and letting off steam, work is not getting done. And the major purpose of any business is to increase revenues and decrease expenses. And so that's the first thing that I would do, Ann.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And if you can't get in on the ground, if the sooner you get in, the better, right? Get in on the
Yeah.
ground floor, the difficulty. For example, if you have someone who's just constantly undermining the team, individuals on the team, maybe undermining management, undermining everyone else's best efforts, or just in general, just being a naysayer to everyone's ideas, and this is never going to work. And how do you begin to confront an employee who's doing that?
Yes. When it comes to the person that's a consistent problem, let's say you've already have talking or spoken with this individual and it continues. Now you have to advance it to being a little bit more assertive of saying, we've already addressed this. And let me deal with it from 3 points of view. Let me deal with it from a colleague or a peer. If I'm a peer and this is how I say, hey, I understand you have an issue. I would suggest you follow the grievance process because, I got work to do. You got work to do. And I mean, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but I'm not the right person or we're not the right people that can do anything about it. So redirecting them to someone that can address their grievance and do something about it. Let's say I'm a supervisor and I overhear this. Again, I will reaffirm that I understand that you're upset, that you're feeling a certain way. However, this is not the appropriate medium to have your grievances heard, and remind them of your established grievance process. And let's say, for example, you've done that and it continues, then you want to step it up to say, listen, you're creating disruption in the workplace. If this continues, we're going to have a stronger conversation, which could lead to some form of corrective action. You have to deal with it swiftly. You cannot allow this behavior to linger on, because what will happen is it's called the poison fruit, that one individual can spoil the apple cart and spread discord amongst everyone else. Or you have those that are silent and they're saying, I wish this guy would leave me alone so I can get my work done. And now this person is preventing others from doing their job.
Yeah.
And you have to
No.
nip the in the bud.
It's so true. And, sometimes there is a particular grievance or grievances that can be addressed, but sometimes this is just a passive aggressive behavior.
Yes.
The undermining, the constant subtle and not so subtle undermining. Just, every time, Tim, he always makes us do this, or, so-and-so, she'll never get it right, or just this constant attitude of, taking away the power of the team, creating a rift in every situation. It reminds me sometimes of Thanksgiving dinners, the big family Thanksgiving
Yes.
dinners. There is always someone in there who is riffing. They are like, well, I don't think that. And you're just like, oh my gosh, could we just have a good time already? Could we just enjoy this one day that we actually be together?
Yeah, it's like that uncle at the cookout, right? Everybody knows when Uncle Charlie shows up, there's going to be drama, okay?
Yes.
And so, you don't want to uninvite Uncle Charlie, so you try to limit as much exposure to Uncle Charlie, right?
Yeah. No, it's so true. So when we talk about, we're not allowed to talk to Uncle Charlie about it, or, gosh knows their implications. But at work, when it's our job, when when it's you're responsible for the team, what are some effective communication techniques that we can use for really addressing this specifically undermining behavior?
Yeah. Here's 3 things. Number 1, you have to be direct. You cannot go in wishy-washy. You didn't set clear expectations, and what I mean by wishy-washy is like, well, I understand what you're saying, but you got some good points, but we need to get back to work, okay?
Mm-hmm.
No, you need to say to that individual that we've discussed this. I've given you the appropriate forms to fill out for your grievance or for your concern. You are now creating a disruption by preventing others from doing their job. Now, if you want to schedule a meeting to talk about something that maybe I'm unaware of, I'm more than happy to do that. But I really need for you to get to work, because this is what we call ghost employment. In other words, I'm paying you to do a job. You're not doing the job that I paid you to do. And
including in that job description was being supportive of the team, in other words.
Yeah.
So even if they're completing their tasks, but they're constantly undermining. So when you're dealing with a difficult personality, or maybe someone who was there long before you arrived on the scene, how do you deal with them responding that, well, you're just targeting me. You just don't like me. You're targeting me. You're trying to make an example of me. Everybody complains all the time. Why are you doing this to me? So in that real situation, how can you
That's a very good
bring
point.
in mediation?
Yeah. When a person feels that they're being targeted, again, provided that there is a official grievance or a complaint process. If you don't have a complaint process, you need to have one. That's number 1, because you have to have an outlet for people to bring their concerns, their complaints, and their grievances, and to be heard in a format that allows them to do that. And mediation would be one of those, with ground rules. And so that would definitely be one avenue. What you have to keep in mind is you have to limit the amount of disruption in the workplace so that work can get done, especially if you have, let's say, walk-ins. These are potential customers, and they don't want to see disgruntled employees spreading rumors or disparaging remarks about their supervisor, because now what you're doing, you're impeding business. And that's a bigger problem, because any employee that impedes business, you've laid the groundwork to being terminated. Because remember, the purpose of business is to increase revenue. And if you are sabotaging that, the courts have upheld that you can be terminated for those types of offenses.
And I think that's
go ahead.
No, and I think that's critical too, because sometimes certain personalities don't even have grievances that they really are trying to articulate. Sometimes someone has a real pet peeve. Sometimes there is no formal grievance. Sometimes they'll never fill out a grievance. They're never going to say, well, this is what I have a huge problem with. It's more of an attitude or a personality that's developed a habitual behavior to just kind of be snarky all the time about every single person that they work with. And so having to say, this is like, you have this job because the bottom line for the team, for the company. So if we don't feel like you're supporting that in a healthy way, then you may
then
have
we
some
need
serious
we need to
issues
let you
coming
go.
up. Yeah.
Because I have seen this where you allow this to fester. It becomes poison fruit on the vine. The next thing you know, instead of having one disgruntled employee, now you have 4, 5, 6. Now you have a whole department, and at the end of the day, no work is getting done, or the work is not getting done to the level of or quality that it should be. And now
Right.
you create a situation where you have little saboteurs in the workplace that will sabotage either in word and in deed and prevent you from getting new business because, and I've seen them go and put things on social media. You know, my boss is a horrible person. I don't even know why they have clients. You know, I wouldn't buy from them. Okay. Those are comments that can end you up in not only legal trouble, but also in the unemployment line.
Right. No, it's so true. So knowing the appropriate methods, and I think that that's also, probably part of this approach, and we're going to have to take a commercial break in just a minute, but part of the approach is to say, when you're initially confronting the problem, right? So the
Yes.
first and second time, it's like, listen, I realize that a lot of things seem to bother you. And I understand that a lot of things bother me too, but I am here to do a job, to be professional, to maintain some professional standards with the team,
Yes.
whether I like everyone or not, and I can still do my job. So that's also expected of you. Is that something you think you can do, or do you need help? Do you have a grievance that you would like to air specifically, or are you just irritated at work? Like,
Right.
let's clear up exactly
Let's
where
clear
you're
up.
coming
Yes.
from.
That's a very good point. Clarity is the rule. Clarity is the rule. When people are left with unclear expectations, they're going to mess up again and again and again. The other day, I was talking with someone who had a grievance about a situation. She contacted me and she said, Dr. Lyman, I feel like the work that's being given to me is unfair. And I listened to her and I said, and then she said, I listened to her and she said, and I'm not getting paid to do all this extra work. And I asked her a specific question. I said, is the issue compensation or is the issue work? And she said, well, the issue is work. I said, then why are you muddying the waters with compensation? I said, so what you're saying is, if you pay me more to do all this extra work, then what happens 30, 60, 90 days? You're going to be back saying, I feel overwhelmed. And they're going to say, listen, we paid you an extra $20,000, $30,000. So that allows us to add more work to your plate because your grievance was not the work. Your grievance was compensation. So we answered the grievance by giving you more money. That's why we say compensation is a low motivator. And and it's a band-aid a lot of times that pacifies the person to take on more work. But if you're not dealing with the root cause, then all we're doing is pacification and putting band-aids on a cancer.
And we're going to come back and go directly to those root causes right after the break. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching us here, listening to us on MetaGagement-HR. Please like, subscribe, leave us a comment, shoot us an email, check out the website, metagagement.com, and we'll be right back.
Get ready to unlock your full potential and transform your vision into reality. Go beyond traditional employee engagement to focus on the whole person with the focused Meta Mindset system. Experience real, measurable progress towards personal and professional goals. Dr. Lyman Montgomery and Scottlin provide tailored guidance and support to help you overcome obstacles and thrive. Join them for their engaging events, like the Lunch and Learn webinar series, and experience the future of employee engagement. Visit metagagement.com now to get started today.
Welcome back to part 2 of our episode today, Drama-Free Zone, Addressing Toxic Behavior. Dr. Lyman Montgomery and I were talking about some real life examples, people that will probably sound familiar to you. This is the second part in our series dealing with toxic employees. And Lyman, we were just talking about identifying root causes. So I want to move into, another scenario briefly, which is, how do you handle an employee who's constantly blaming others? So it's less of a saboteur and more blaming others for everything that doesn't go right, doesn't go well, and not taking any personal responsibility.
Yeah. There's 2 questions that you want to ask that person. You listen to them, and at the end of the conversation, and I always give people 3 minutes. Say, listen, we have a limited amount of time, so as concise as you can, tell me what the issues are in about 2 or 3 minutes. So you've already put a time limit on it, and that prevents them from just rambling on and on. And let them know that, I'm going to interject at around 2.5, 3 minutes, because I really want to get to the root cause. If they have not identified a root cause in that 2 to 3 minutes, I will ask this question. Of everything that you said so far, if you had to pick 2 of the main causes of the problem, what would those 2 be? And then of the two that you've identified, which one would you say is the bigger problem? You only can pick one. And that kind of helps them create a funnel to get to the root cause. The second thing that I would do, I would ask this question. What portion of responsibility or accountability do you take for any of this? Do you take 0%, 10%, 50%, 60%? On a scale, what percentage of this can you look at and say, you know what, I can take ownership? That forces them to look at themselves and say, you know what, I probably can take, if they're honest, they probably would come in somewhere between 30 to probably 50%. If they're being disingenuous, they say, well, I don't take no responsibility. It's not me. They won't take any responsibility. And that's when you know you're dealing with someone that's probably disingenuous.
Yeah. And when you have someone who's disingenuous like that, is it time to bring it into a team conversation, or is it still should be limited to just you and that person?
I think it's limited to you and that person because you still want to protect the confidentiality of the individual. If you still don't get any resolution, then you want to look for, do you move this person to another team? And I just believe you being honest with people and straightforward. And I will let people know, listen, I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It appears you're not happy with this team. Is there another team that you think you feel more comfortable working with? They may not know. There may not be another team. If there's not another team, you'll say, listen, I really want you to go home and I want you to take a day or 2 to think about if this is the right fit for you. And come back in 2 or 3 days, we'll have another conversation and you let me know how you are going to be able to support the team, because this is not working for us. I've given that person homework to reflect and come back and make a case why they should be on the team.
Yeah.
And if they don't make a case, then I'm going to make the case why they should not, and I'm going to move for termination.
So I think part of it is then having the confidence, and hopefully upper management supports you in making these, making these executive decisions, because sometimes that can be
documentation is your friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Documentation and having the confidence, You've also been hired for a very specific job. This is you doing your job. It's not you, picking out people to highlight and get rid of and cause trouble. That's not why you took this job either. So having the confidence, it's just like sales or anything else, right? When there's a serious problem, you're going to have to sell that up the chain and say, listen, This isn't working. This is damaging the team. It's damaging the bottom line. Nothing personal. Wish them the best.
Yes.
But we cannot have this going on. So I think sometimes that's hard. It's hard for HR and lower management, sometimes it's hard for them to admit they couldn't solve the problem, and they don't want to rock the boat. And what if this person knows the CEO? There's these anxieties that come up that make sometimes it's a little less straightforward than you might imagine.
Right. And here's 2 questions you want to ask yourself. You bring up a very, very good point. The 2 questions that you want to ask yourself: is this an inability to do the job or unwillingness to do the job? If it's an inability, then that speaks to education, a skill set, or knowledge base. If it's an unwillingness, that speaks more to attitudinal. They just don't want to do it. And they will tell you, well, I'm not doing that. You don't pay me enough to do all that. You cannot work with unwillingness. You can always work with inability to a point. Sometimes the job is bigger than their ability to do the job. If that makes sense.
No, it is. And then we're addressing a real issue that can be modified, or they can be moved to a different position, or they can be given extra training, or they can have personal coaching. There's so many options from that point to move on.
Right.
So we're going to have to wrap up here in just a minute, but creating a drama-free zone, I think, that sign should be in every office. Drama-free zone.
Yes.
Drama-free zone. It's like, this is not a secret, guys. This is how we're going to work here. So, we all have to put on our big boy pants and get down to work and save the pettiness for those Thanksgiving dinners or whatever.
Yeah, save for the cookout.
Well, this has been a great episode, and I hope you all took away something really helpful and useful. Leave us a comment, shoot us an email. You can see our email here. You can go to the website, MetaGagement-HR. Check us out on all our social platforms. Shoot this link to someone you like who would love to have a conversation about dealing with difficult people here in this series, dealing with toxic employees, or we could say toxic employees that work with you. And then lastly, just wanted to let you know, so next time is going to be part 3 of this series. And this one you're not going to want to miss, because you're going to get some really specific tools. We're calling this next one the turnaround toolkit for performance improvement, if I can say that. The turnaround toolkit for performance improvement. So how do you do that in a way that doesn't seem painful, that doesn't seem overbearing? How can you lift them up from the bottom and make them want to perform? What if you make it more organic? How can you do that? And some people don't like that word organic, but believe me, when people behave from an organic perspective, when they do something because they want to, it changes the entire environment. And so we're going to give you some great ideas with that turnaround toolkit. So any final words for us, Lyman?
I would just say it's always a pleasure. Make sure inability versus unwillingness. That's perhaps the most important question when it comes to separating an employee, to ask yourself if this is an inability to do the job versus an unwillingness to do the job.
I love that. That's so helpful. So join us again next time. We're streaming on Tuesdays. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. GMT for our friends across the pond. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.